Hi, how you doing? I'm sorry I'm late. If anybody's still there, I appreciate it. Um, I'll stick around. I do apologize for being late. It's entirely my fault, and I will explain it when there's somebody to explain it to. Please feel free to give me a thumbs up or something when you can confirm that you can hear me. Pretty sure that this is working. It's worked the last few times. So how you doing? You know what? We're gonna live stream while I write until people show up. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see here. Hey, you want to hear the first part of chapter 44 of Carry Your Heart? Here we go. Chapter 44. Josh. Hey, thanks again. I pulled at the shirt I was wearing. No worries, bro. The guy whose name I didn't know grinned widely. It's just clothes. He wasn't wrong. I'd come out of the shower with a towel wrapped around my waist and realized I didn't have any clean clothes. My brain was such toast that I hadn't even thought about that before I stripped out of the worn, partially burned, filthy gear I'd been wearing. Toast. Haha. This guy with the long beard braided tightly to be able to go under a mask had walked in and seen me looking around, probably kind of stupidly. You're one of those guys on that team. I nodded. You look like a man searching for a stitch or two. I laughed sheepishly. Yep. I reached for the pile of clothes I'd left outside the showers. I can just put these back on. Nah, my brother. We don't put new wine in old caskets. He rummaged in. Oh, there's somebody here. Good. He rummaged in his duffel and turned up a full set of clothes, boxes included. He handed them to me. Use these. Okay, so enough of that. Unless you want me to keep going. I mean, there's no context for this, right? This is the end of Carry Your Heart. Carry Your Heart is the fourth book in the Finding Home series. The Finding Home series kicked off with one book, Beyond the Cabin. First book I ever really submitted and took seriously. I mean, I'd had written a whole book before that. It was a big fantasy semi-epic called Brothers in Arms. Yeah, that was supposed to kick off a huge epic fantasy series. I never took it serious enough to make it work. But Beyond the Cabin used to be called The Cabin, and it's an autobiographical thing about my life. And I wrote that book, and then I wrote it again, and then I wrote it again, and then I wrote it again, and then I wrote it again. About 5 revisions, big time revisions, and then several rounds of good edits until I was happy with it. And then I was submitting it for 2 years, and it didn't go anywhere. At the end of those 2 years, after I'd done even more revisions and edits, the agents were like, well, this is really good. I just don't know how to sell it. I'm like, what do you mean you know how to sell it? You put it in bookstores and it gets bought, and I become a bestseller, and I get famous and rich. Well, rich is more important than famous. So that was frustrating. It turned out they were like, well, is it YA or is it coming of age? That's the same thing. No, they were like, is it YA or is it like a kind of like a cult survivor, almost memoir? I'm like, it's a YA coming of age story. That's happens to be about me. Anyway, I mean, people who buy it like it. I just need more people to buy it. Anyway, that book sat around as the only book in that series because it was not a series until oh dear, when was it? I think it was 2020 or 2021. I forget. Anyway, I was working at BYU in kind of the dotage of my career after working for Amazon and other places. And I had some of my coworkers like, I really liked your book. I'm like, oh crap, you read my book. And so I was like, well, that's cool. And they're like, well, where's the next one? I'm like, there isn't one. They're like, it seems like there should be more. And I'm like, no, that story's done. And then, of course, when you say that story's done, you start thinking, is that story done? Perhaps that story is not done. So it turned out I realized there was more story I could tell, because really Beyond the Cabin is about me growing up in a cult. It's my life in the cult, things that I experienced in the cult. And I mean, obviously, as you can imagine, if you haven't read it, it's fictionalized for the purposes of a novel. But I mean, 90% of the things that happened to young Josh, the main character, happened to me. That just maybe happened in a different sequence. But those things happened to me, and that setting of the cult is 100% accurate. But I realized, Beyond the Cabin is me in the cult. What about me finding my way out of the cult? And then I realized, I think that's a book. And so I planned it out, outlined it, and wrote it, and that became Finding Home. I actually churned that sucker out. I think it took me 8 to 9 weeks to write that book, just flying. Really good, felt good. I did a big portion of it for NaNoWriMo, then I had to sit on it for a minute, and then I got it done, and then I got it revised and edited and all that junk, and had it out. I think it was March or April or February of, I think it's 2021. It might be 2020. It might be 2020. I forget. Anyway, so I'm like, yeah, now the story's done. Wait, is it? And so I realized maybe I should write more. Maybe there's more I could write. I mean, Finding Home ends really nicely. It's all tied up super good, I think. But, and I started thinking over the next couple of years, I was in the cult, Beyond the Cabin. I got out of the cult, Finding Home, which is about 50% true. Some of the big things are really not true, namely having a romance with a girl that I crossed the country for. Anyway, so it ends nicely, and it's me in, and then it's out. But then, what comes after, right? I mean, and really, the truth is, there's been much more after the cult. I mean, I've lived out of the cult, that stupid cult, for well over half my life. I'm nearly a 49-year-old man. I got out when I was 17, so it's been 32 years. Mercy. It's almost 2/3 of my life out of that dang thing. That's great. But there's been so much more. And there was so much more even when I was young and just recently out. And so, I thought, I think I could write more. And so I thought 2 more books, because I didn't want to write 3 more books. Trilogy, quadrilogy, quinta, I don't even know. Quint, whoever's there, if you know the word for a 5-book series, you can chime in over here in the comments there. Anyway, so the 2 next books were born. I named the series the Finding Home series because I feel like that's really the heart of the story. Is Josh, the main character, and Mary, also the co-main character, as of book 2. Quartet works for me. Yeah. Hi, Nonsensical. I don't know who you are, but thanks for being here. Quartets, the string quartet. Anyway, so I started kind of cogitating on what would be the story that could be told in these next 2 books, these final 2 books in the series. And, I realized, just like me in my life, when I got out of that dumb cult, that rather abusive cult, I had healing to do. Now, when I was younger and got out, I didn't know that, nor did I care about it. I was too busy with the other things that I was doing, with my other endeavors, and I was just trying to close the door on it and just move forward. And that worked great for a long time. As it was actually in my 20s and 30s, late 20s, early to mid 30s, I started really processing the stuff that I'd gone through and realizing how much of what I was doing in my life was kind of a trauma response, or was, very associated or connected to things that happen in my, the multiple lobes of my brain. And that was interesting for me to finally see. And I have my friend Rob Wells to thank for some of that, because he's been such a great advocate for understanding mental illness and destigmatizing it, and just seeing it as conditions that can be dealt with and handled, not necessarily easily, but they can be dealt with medication, with other interventions, and there's nothing to be ashamed of if you need help and intervention like that. So that was helpful for me, and I'll always be grateful to him for that. Hey, we argued on the internet today. It was like old times. Anyway, right. So I started processing things it was definitely no earlier than my early 30s to mid 30s. And then that took actually my whole 30s. My 30s were a great decade. They were hard, though. Super hard. And it was super challenging and rough, and I did a lot of inner work and a lot of outer work and all that other stuff. Anyway, but I realized, there's so much more that these young people who've gotten out of a terribly abusive situation have to experience, and I'm going to write that story. And so I started writing the outline, just kind of not an outline, just kind of some notes on them, and realizing, there really is some good stuff here that I could get excited about. And it took me a while to finally really get into it, but I really got into the final outlining process of both books. And around August of last year. Maybe closer to September, honestly. It was August and September, and I started really putting some notes down for structure, for the pinch points. I use Dan Wells, Rob's brother. I know Rob is Dan's brother, Dan is Rob's brother, whatever. Both of them are chums. Dan has a really good YouTube series on or video on the a 7-point structure to a plot, and I use it for some things. I don't use it for to dictate my whole structure, but it's really good to make sure that the beats and the pinches and the plot turns and stuff like that, as he calls them, which I think it's great terminology, are there for any book that I write. And so it's been useful. And I outlined these books and following that that approach, and it was very helpful. And then I started doing chapter outlines, and then I got really, really excited and got to it. I also got over my writer's block, which I was dealing with for a year and a half, which I talked about in previous videos. Had finally punched through that sucker. And I punched through it with vengeance. And so now I've just about finished my second book in 4 months, which I'm very excited about. And they're turning out really good. I mean, not to toot my own horn, and that's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying that I like the art I'm creating. I love the art that I'm creating, which leads me to the next topic. So I'll get to it in a second. But anyway, so that's where I'm at. I'm in my second to last chapter of this book, and there'll be a prologue. I gotta go look at a couple of other prologues, epilogue for this book. I got to go look at other epilogues that are out there, just to make sure I structure it right, because I get real deep POV when I'm writing my stories. I really prefer deep POV. I feel like people get more engaged in it, and that's one of the reasons. One of those strengths of my writing is the deep POV. But the epilogue can't be deep POV, so I need to see what the right perspective is. What the level of perspective it needs to be for the characters that will be in there in the epilogue. It's a Steven Spielberg epilogue, unabashedly. Real happy to own the fact that this is a Steven Spielberg epilogue. Everybody happy, everybody's thriving, somebody's pregnant. It's going to be great. Anyway, so no spoilers, I promise. Anyway, so I'm excited. I'm excited to get this done tonight, and I'm excited to cut 5,000 to 10,000 words out of it tomorrow, because it's a little long. It's closing in on, it's 106,000 words. That's long for kind of a coming of age YA new adult novel. It's the final book in the series, and finals tend to be a little longer, but I really want to get a little shorter. I think it's a little loosey goosey in the front part of the book anyway. So I'll cut a big chunk out of it. Probably just lose some chapters and throw the themes and what was important in those chapters. And if it's that easy to cut a chapter, then that chapter should be cut. Anyway, back to the whole. I really like what I'm writing. I got a friend. Well, I got a lot of friends. Some of them are really good friends, and some of them are just acquaintances. But one of my dear friends that I would love to just chill out with more, because I think she's just got a great vibe, is Erin Shakespeare Bishop. So I got to know her in the writing community, but she has moved on to. And I think maybe she still writes a little bit. I don't know, but she's a wildly creative person. She's ebullient. It's a good word for her. She likes bright colors and lives bright, and got a great family. Got a couple missionaries out, which is that's a hard thing. My heart goes out to her. Anyway, so she does a lot of painting now, and her painting is super fun, super vivid and bright. I love her style to it, but I love what I saw her say today. I love this painting. I love this thing I just finished. It makes me happy. That is a fantastic attitude for creatives to have with their art. We seem to think that we're supposed to be some sort of, not we, but there seems to be a possible stereotype around with artists that we have to be forlorn about our art, or tortured about our art. And granted, there have been people who've been tortured about their art, so I don't want to diminish that at all. Some of them who were tortured about their art sucked. Andy Warhol and Jackson Pollock. I'm looking at you. Warhol, not as much, but Pollock, man, your stuff sucked. I'm sorry, whatever. You may have been exploring boundaries and stuff, but your stuff isn't very nice to look at. I'm sorry. I just don't like it. So obviously there's no objective you suck. There's a relative, subjective Jared's not a fan. But that's because I like elevated, fantastical, romantic stuff, and I like really nice, real stuff. Not what the frick is this stuff, right? what the frick is this stuff is not something that cooks my cookies, that bakes my cakes. But he liked his stuff. I hope creatives, we all hopefully we like our work. I mean, it's so easy to get down on ourselves because the world is rough sometimes, and the people in our lives can be rough. Because there's this expectation that you put a lot of effort into something, you should get something back for it. Except for that one of the most valuable things you can do with your life, raising kids. You do get something back, but it is not something very tangible. It's a deep, wonderful, connected feeling, right? And it's the promise of lineage and people who come after having a progeny and a legacy that just spreads and expands and grows. That's an intangible. It's the best intangible, in my opinion, in all creation. But this notion that we have to get something back when we put a lot of effort in, it's not always true, and we have to accept that that's not true. And hopefully we can help the people in our lives understand that that's not true, especially when it comes to art. And really, I'm having a bit of a catharsis moment here and a bit of an epiphany here, that around the whole not getting something back for everything you put in. And not only that, there's a certain aspect or two of my life which I put a lot of effort and love and blood and sweat and tears, not literal blood, but a lot into, where not only have I not gotten anything back, what has come back, well, not only have I not gotten anything rewarding back, but what has come back in some cases has been negativity and misunderstanding and anger and resentment. And it's like, what the frick, man? But back to the art thing, we don't need to be haunted, weighed down by our art, plagued and tortured by our art and our need to art. Now, I have to say, somebody else says, hey, no worries, Rob, I was late too. We've had a good conversation. If you want to review, we've talked about the books I'm writing. I'm about to finish my fourth book, my fourth book in the series, Finding a Home, and it's my second book that I'm finishing the drafting of inside of 4 months. So that's real cool. 4 months? That's not right. 4.5 months. Anyway, sorry. I'm a little bit obsessed with getting it right. Rob's like, yeah, then why do you get it so wrong on the internet all the time? Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I like to say the things that I think are true, at least. So this creativity, we don't need to be tortured by our art. In fact, I think that at some point in our creative progress, it is very healthy to process our way through the tortured aspect of our art and the weighed down heavily by our art and the need to make that art, and come out the other side saying, I love this work. I do it because it makes me feel a way that I love. You could call it, I feel alive. I feel more connected with the world, with myself, with those around me, engaged. I feel like I see beauty. There's so many positive ways to describe. I love the way this makes me feel. It makes me feel this way. And that's just about my favorite sensation or experience or mood or condition or state to have in this world. I think we can come out. I think we can process out through our haunted, tortured artist phase to a healthy, productive artist phase who's maybe not even making a living with their art, because I'm sure it's frick not. But who loves it and who just creates that art out of love. That's one of the things I do admire about Erin, is that, she's clearly creating out of love. And I'm going to get back to the creating out of love thing for myself too. But I mean, I look at my author friends who are writing because they love it. They love to write their stories. Jana Stocks Brown, she's writing a ton of books. She loves what she's writing. She's having a great time learning the author business and starting to become really successful. She's great. She was a bit of a mentor for me in the last little bit. Let's see who else. April Lynn Pike, a good friend. Boy, she loves writing. I mean, she's set it aside for other loves for a little while, but she's still writing, and I think she's picked it up again a little more recently. She does it out of love too, and Rob, I don't know if you did it out of love, but I assume that there was a lot of love and heart that went into that, and part of why it's not that hard to set it behind you at this point is to say that is because probably the love for it may have faded, and that's okay. Other things took that place, and that's fine. Our hearts are multitudinous and many faceted creatures. Our hearts are. Oh, another person's on. Hey, another person who's on. You've missed a lot. That's okay. Stick around. We'll talk. If you have a question, feel free to ask it. But back to doing it for the love of art and out of love. I wrote some stuff back in my day, like Beyond the Cabin, the first draft of that, the first good. Yeah, there you go. I love. Yeah, I mean, I think it could be very interesting to dig into the why, but also probably not necessarily productive or useful, because you're living a life that you love with your family and with the work that you're doing and your own art, your own creations with your minis and with your that massive, magnificent tabletop thing that you're putting together. That all that scenery and stuff. That's glorious, man. Anyway, so I wrote the first draft of Beyond the Cabin, my first good complete draft of Beyond the Cabin when it was still called The Cabin, and there was a lot of anger in the writing of that story, a lot of anger, and it comes through. It came through, and that was good for me to write, but it wasn't good for me to try to have people read it because it was kind of too hard of an edge. So some people are like, no, but that's your art, that's your true story. Yeah, it wasn't the story I was trying to tell. So I kept going with other books and I kept revising that one, and I did other short stories and I did poetry as well. I wrote a lot of angry poetry when I was growing up too. And I got to a point probably back in 2007 or 8. Oh, that's a long time ago. Holy crap. I'm getting old. We're all getting old. It's okay. Life is short. The world is big. There's beauty everywhere. I got to the point where I was realizing that I didn't want to write angry stuff. And I think it might have been partly Twitter that was helping me see that. I saw people, it's been going on since Twitter was around, right? People writing angry stuff and getting a lot of social clout for it. And you being like, wow, that's a lot of social clout from being angry and expressing it. Maybe I should do that. And just not being able to bring myself to it. And that got me thinking about, well, why do I do what I do? Why am I on the online? Why am I on social media? Why am I writing? Why am I doing all this stuff? And so I think it's been a big, wonderful, lifelong process, of leveling up for me into my art. But I came to the point where I had to make a deliberate decision that I wasn't going to write from a place of anger. I was going to write from a place of love and peace, not to falsely spread just kind of a bland love or a bland positivity that wasn't realistic or glossed over bad things and negative things, but because I just wanted to lift and inspire and show love and be loving. And I felt like I could be a happier person from writing out of love. So thanks for those who've just joined as well. Just finishing up my discussion about this. And if you guys have questions, please feel free to ask because I'm about to run out of steam. Anyway, so I write out of love today, and I really admire people who are just unabashed in their passion for what they do, and do it because they refuse to be abashed about it. They just they love it. Lots of thumbs up. If I was a Thark from the Barsoom, no, Barsoom is Earth. Anyways, if I was the Thark, in the Princess of Mars series, if I had all 4 hands, I'd put all 4 thumbs up. Well, that was a lot of duct tape on that ridiculous punchline. Oh boy. Okay. Anyway, I'm loving it, and I'm really enjoying the fact that I'm about to finish this book, Carry Your Heart, and I have a question for you. And if you have questions for me, please feel free to ask. So, okay, the first book is called Beyond the Cabin. That's simply on the nose. I mean, it's a thematically perfect title for it. It used to be called The Cabin, but then I realized The Cabin not only was the same name for other books that weren't the same book, and I didn't want to have the resonance or association with it. But also, the whole point of the story is that Josh is going beyond it. He's going beyond this symbol of the anger and the bitterness and resentfulness that's defined his life in the cult, and moving to a place of peace and of true internal freedom. So he has to go beyond the cabin. So hence the title. I love the title. I think the title is perfect. Perfect. And then when I was writing Finding a Home, I wasn't sure. I was like, should I call it Beyond the Faith? I was like, no, that's not going to work out very well. I've still got some old artifact files with Beyond the Faith on it. Beyond the Faith's bad. I mean, number one, faith is everything to me, right? I don't want to tell people I've written a book about leaving the faith. People make any association they're going to want to, and I can't control all of it, but I can do my best to control some of it, right? So I actually did a poll. I was agonizing over the titles for a long time, and did some polls online here on Facebook and over on Twitter. Got just a little bit of input and participation. But my friend Pam, she said, what about finding home? I'm like, I don't know, maybe. But it grew on me. Boy, it grew on me. Obviously, it grew on me because the book is titled that. And so is the whole dang series. And it's obvious why it's called that, right? It's Josh leaves the faith and the cult, and he gets out and tries to find a home. And the whole story of the book Finding Home is Josh trying to find a home in here and in the world. I'm really proud of that book. I think it's great. Okay, so and then they named the whole series Finding Home. It just makes sense. It fits it, right? Anyway, then you've got Worlds Apart is book 3. Book 3 is Worlds Apart. And book 4 is Carry Your Heart. I'm not a huge fan of the rhyme, but I also do not care. Do you know, or can you try to guess the references from which I have pulled those titles? Worlds Apart, book 3. And book 4 is Carry Your Heart. Bring it on. 5 people? 4 people on my stream. 5 people for like 3 whole seconds on my stream. That's like a world record for me. Woo! Okay. What do you think? Any ideas where the title Worlds Apart came from? Do 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 do. No ideas, huh? Woo-wee. Have you ever heard? Oh, Rocky. James, good guess, but no. I'm sorry. It's not from Rocky, but I mean, many things in my life are from Rocky, so it's a fair guess. It's always Rocky. Darn straight, man. Boy, there's a line in Big River called Worlds Apart. And Big River? I'm not familiar with Big River. Obviously, Worlds Apart isn't that unusual of a phrase. So, I mean, if you can actually get it, that'd be awesome. Total wavelength buddies here. Have you heard a Journey song that goes like this? How we touched and went our separate ways. If he ever hurts you, true love won't desert you. Anyway, it's called Separate Ways. But there's a parenthetical subtitle for that song, and it is Worlds Apart. I yoinked the title from Worlds Apart to the book because it is 100% perfect for all the themes of the book Worlds Apart. And it is just wonderfully appropriate. I like it. That book being informed by music that I've loved my whole life. Good times. With that as sort of a clue, any ideas where Carry Your Heart came from? I mean, I'm going to reveal it here exclusively to you people on my live stream because you're great. And then I'm going to sign off unless you have any questions or anything else you want to talk about. It's from 2 things. One is an 80s song that is one of possibly the most cheesy songs you ever did hear. And you may have forgotten those songs. As some of you are maybe even younger than me by a margin. I don't know. But this is a truly 100% 80s song. And it is called Waiting for a Star to Fall by Boy Meets Girl. And it goes, waiting for a star to fall, carry your heart into my arms. That's where you... Okay, so it's a really fun, romantic, deeply cheesy song that I still love unabashedly. And Carry Your Heart's a great line. I was listening to the song, I'm like, wait, is that my title? Is that my title? Is that my title? And I thought, actually, Carry Your Heart is also the name of one of my favorite E.E. Cummings poems. E.E. Cummings has a wonderfully beautiful and very movingly romantic poem called Carry Your Heart. I Carry Your Heart. So I'm delighted that my book titles are informed by those things that I love as well. So there you go. Book titles can come from everything. James, I don't know if I told you, but in Carry Your Heart, One of the characters is working at a law firm, and it is called Jameson and Orgel. I hope that's okay. Yeah, cool times. I also just wrote a dear old friend into the very final part of Carry Your Heart. It just came to me that, you know what, this would be a good place to put Dylan in here. It's a good old friend, an old employee of mine back when I worked. I know, right? Back when I was managing a team at a company called Career Step, where I cut my teeth in every way, actually. Dylan was a good man, good graphic designer who was trying to transition from graphic designer to instructional designer. He found that he felt more engaged by it, but he ultimately wound up going down to LA and animating for Walt Disney for a while. And he's done. He did great. He always kind of went his own way, pursued his own path, and sometimes it was sad to see some of the stuff he would choose, but it didn't matter. He was living true to himself. Anyway, he died tragically about a year and a half ago, very suddenly in a motorcycle accident, and that was a hard thing to realize, that this young man who had so much life and was giving so much of himself, and was literally practically sucking the marrow from life, and that he was gone. So, I'm glad to put him in here. I think it's a good place for him to be. For, it makes my heart happy. Another reason I love my books, I can write whatever I want. So the two knuckleheads at Career Step who wound up basically ruining that company, a guy named Michael Hodson and a guy named Gabriel O'Day. Well, in my fantasy trilogy that I'm working on right now, called The Dragon Scale Posse, takes place in the Old West. The villain is called Gabriel Hodson, because writers can do whatever the frick we want. Don't piss off a writer if you don't want to be the bad guy or die messily in a book. So anyway, petty, I don't care. Tyson, what's up, brother? Yes, I have stopped caring about stuff. I have learned that the truth is on my side. And if I don't like actual smear names really badly, I'm probably safe. So yeah, those guys were putzes and truly terrible at what they did, and really unpleasant to work with. I could start naming some more, but we'll leave it at that. Anyway, is there anything else y'all want to talk about at all? If not, we'll shut this down. Again, my apologies for being late. I do appreciate patience and your awesomeness. Anything else? I'll just sit here for a second. Yep. Okay. Do you want to read some more or hear some more from this book? Oh. Did I tell you what I did last time, by the way? Oh, thanks, man. B was my prophecy of COVID. Tyson, you're not wrong. I am an oracle, and I should be sent large amounts of money on the regular basis so that my oracular powers do not turn bitter and call down meteors and hail upon people to plague them and kill them. No, but it's honestly, I mean, I didn't see a spike in book sales during the COVID time for Beat at all. So I'm not surprised that I didn't either. I mean, yeah, the thing is, pandemics and viruses and biotoxins and viruses, that's been a subject for a long time. I mean, Michael Crichton, Andromeda strain, right? This has been around for a long time. So I'm just doing my part to continue to fill the canon of fun thrillers that do a play on pandemics. But I mean, yeah, that's because I had my pop on. You darn constant booster shots. Tyson, some people like to get booster shots. I am not one of them. I will not argue with them and their booster shot receiving, because for some people it may really be helping. I had a very distinct feeling that the booster shots would not help me. Partly because I don't know, maybe I'm stupid, but also I'm excessively healthy. Excessively healthy. It's ridiculous. My blood work just came back. I'm turning 49 this year. My blood work came back and everything is perfect. All of the counts in every way are perfect. I rode 27 miles on my bike the other day, and that was fantastic. I swam a kilometer yesterday. I ran 5K the other day. I'm not like the picture of health at all, but my health is solid, and I'm not complaining, and I love what my body can do. So yeah, it's not for me. It's not for me. Anyway, we're not getting political here, man. We're not doing it. When is the sprint? Oh, the sprint tri. Yeah, I'm doing the sprint triathlon on March 25th. I believe that's a Saturday. Let's take a look, shall we? Oh dear. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Okay, my CPA just got back to me. Sorry. Life just goes on. Yeah, 25th. Icebreaker Triathlon is 25th. So I don't know what the T3 is, but this is called the Icebreaker Triathlon. It's the first triathlon done by US Tri here in Utah in the year. And it takes place at the American Fork Recreation / Fitness Center. I don't know what it's called. And it's not an open water swim. It's a really short 300-meter swim where you snake along a lane, go under a lane marker, snake along the lane, go under a lane marker, and come out over here. Yeah, it's fine. I'm an okay swimmer. I'll probably pass people. And then you have your 12-mile bike ride. It's about 2.5 miles up a hill, a mile and a bit along, come back down the hill, and then come across and then do it again. So it's a 6-mile loop that you do twice for the bike ride. And then it's a 3.1 mile 5K run, which I will not be running very much of, but we'll see how it goes. I love to run still. I just did a 5K again, but having only 25% cartilage in your left knee sort of makes it hurt like the dickens. So I have an anti-inflammatory that's working really well, but it's anyway. Oh, thanks, Tyson. I don't use Strava very much, but I don't use Strava right now because I'm not doing stuff outside. But I will be using Strava again when I'm back outside. So anyway, it'll be fun. It's going to be a fun triathlon. I'm actually going to beat the living crap out of it, to tell you the truth. Go watch Rocky Balboa, and you'll understand why I'm doing a final triathlon. It's because I got something in the basement. It doesn't count. You're right. It doesn't count if it's not on Strava. Sorry. Sometimes what I do doesn't count. It's like ministering sometimes doesn't count. Oh, wait. No, everything counts. I don't even know where I'm going with that. Anyway, where was I? See, I said that stupid non sequitur, and now I'm lost. Lost in the woods. Anyway, triathlon's going to be fun. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go fast. I'm going to go hard. Watch Rocky Balboa. It's the 6th movie in the Rocky series, the last one in the Rocky series before Creed. It's actually really a remarkable movie. It should have won Best Film that year, and Stallone should have won an Oscar already from those movies for his acting, because his acting in Rocky Balboa is shatteringly good. Anyway, so Paulie's like, well, why you got to do this? Why you got to do this, Rock? And Rock's like, I just feel like got something in the basement. Then he chokes up and he's like, it's like a monster, a beast in there. So I feel like there's something left in the basement. And when I'm done with my triathlon in, 3 weeks and a day or two, that basement will be empty. Yep. The basement for triathlons. I have an entire wing of my whole soul for the bike races that I'll be doing because I cannot stop. I'm a maniac. I like feats of endurance and strength. Nah, Tyson. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's probably good if you're not on Twitter. If you are on Twitter, I should follow you. But I follow a bunch of guys. I follow a bunch of guys on there that are action movie buffs, as well as there's this one guy who does a really popular Rocky podcast, actually. That was a funny experience just the other day. Just a little thing. But he does this great Rocky pass. It's very popular. And Rocky Balboa is widely held by him and many others to be the best entry in the whole dang series. In my opinion, it's even better than the Creed movies. But that's just because I'm an older guy who's experiencing kind of what Rocky's going through a little bit. Not with losing my wife. Anyway, so a guy I've gotten to know a little bit at Salt Lake FanX a few times. We've been on a few panels. We've talked quite a lot. We've chatted over Facebook and stuff like that and became pals. His name is Jonathan Decker. He's one of the guys behind the Cinema Therapy thing, which is huge now. They're making they're 1 or 2 million subscribers on YouTube, which is great for them. He's a huge movie buff. We've been on quite a few movie panels at FanX.
Rocky was one of them. We did Indiana Jones. I think we were both on the Willow panel as well. That was a fun one. Anyway, he was just on the Rocky podcast, and and I follow these guys and chat with them sometimes, and they're like, "Yeah, Jonathan Decker of Cinema Therapy was on our podcast." I'm like, "I know that guy," and they're like, "Yeah, we know him too." Now, Jonathan's like, "Yeah, it was a good. I know these guys." Funny little thing. Am I gonna wear some USA shorts? Should I? Do you guys think I should wear USA shorts and really sell the Rocky thing? Maybe I should. But I mean, I do want to be referred to by a big Russian man as he's not human. He is made of iron. He didn't actually say that, of course. That was just the subtitles. But yeah, I'd love to have some gray sweats. Dude, my sweats are blue. So whatever, come at me. But yeah, I do quite a lot of working on my sweats because it's frigid here, man. It's super cold. Anyway, no, I'll probably just wear my usual gear. The last time I did this was back in 2015, and it was a warmer season. It was a pretty pleasant day out, actually. It was a little chilly at the start of the day, started the whole thing, but it wasn't that bad. The way the winter's been going right here, I mean, in 3 weeks from now, we could still have 2 or 3 feet of snow. I don't know how it's going to go. So I may be in sweats the whole dang thing, even while I'm swimming. No, not while I'm swimming. That's a terrible idea. You know, I learned a thing about triathlons, that last one that I didn't know. And luckily, I learned it right before I did it. So I wasn't going into it completely blind. I realized that the transition area is out in the middle of nowhere, or out in the middle of everywhere. Everywhere's in the same place for a transition area. You just go to your little station and you get ready to go do your next leg or your next event, or as it is. So I was like, well, I'm going to swim, and I've got this tight compression shorts for my swim. How do I go from that to biking shorts, which are compression shorts with, padding them? I'm gesturing down here, guys. Anyway, we're all dudes. Unless there's a lady here. Sorry, lady, if you're with padding for the area. I believe women have similar padding for the area down there where you're straddling the dadgum hard saddle. I didn't know how I was going to go from my swimming compression shorts to that, but it turns out you just keep your swimming compression shorts on, and if you want to wear biking shorts, you put them on over it. So that's fun, and I'll be doing something similar to that this time. I'm actually going to have regular compression shorts that are really, really thin as underwear, and then my swimming compression shorts over that. And then when I go to change, I will take the compression shorts off, put on my biking ones, just have a little bit less, moisture to deal with. Anyway, it'll be fine. And then the running will be fine too. The compression shorts I'm going to be using are great. I used them when I had a procedure on my legs. So there we go. I'm glad Chris is laughing. Hi, Krista. You're pretty great. I hope you don't mind me naming a law firm after y'all, Jameson and Norgal. Okay. Since I brought up Willow, what did I think of the TV show? Clearly not much because I didn't see it. Should I? I'm a little leery. The thing is, I love that movie. I think it's really fun. I don't have any particular mystique for it or reverence for it. I think it's really a fun flick, though. And I had a lot of fun watching it and had a lot of fun rewatching it in preparation for the panel back a couple of years ago. And I had a lot of fun watching it again with the kids. It's an enjoyable flick. And Warwick Davis is... he's great. He's a charming, charismatic feller. A lot of fun. And Val Kilmer is like a heartthrob in that. I mean, I'm a straight guy, but that dude is like on point in that movie. Golly. Anyway, boy, this thing's going all over the place. So, Tyson, it says it's not. Fair enough. I will probably watch it when I have time, but truly, there are a lot of things that people are saying I should watch, and I'm not. And I want to watch them, like the new Mandalorian seasons that are coming out. And I'm like, I should watch that. But I haven't. I just barely got through Andor like 2 or 3 weeks ago. A month ago. Last year. I don't remember. Not that long ago. It's because I'm writing in my free time. I'm a busy dude, man. We're all big. Okay, I won't watch it. Sorry. I mean, I'm not going to promise anything, but I got to be able to be informed about things. Because sometimes I like to have opinions on things. If you know me, you know that's true. I mean, is it going to murder me? Is it going to come and find me in my sleep and kill me if I watch it? Obviously, you defended yourself from it, Tyson. I mean, but you're also a far more deadly human being than I am. Hey, are you still a bishop, Tyson? My head will explode. Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you're still a bishop, that's awesome. My stake president still doesn't like beards. Anyway, So the thing about my head exploding is that, yeah, let's go, brother. That was cool, by the way, getting down there and doing that fireside. I'd love to do more of those. That was so much fun. The thing about head exploding because of bad TV shows that are based on IPs that I love is the Wheel of Time TV show that went up on Amazon. So I had actually recently finished the books for the first time. I picked them back up, so I read them all until about book 11 as they were coming out because everybody I knew was obsessed with it, and so I read them all faithfully, and then got out of a cult and was a little busy with other stuff, so I didn't get back to them until about 3 years ago, and started reading them again. I reviewed all the originals in a like a Wikipedia article or two, and then I listened to the audiobook of starting in book 9 and made it all the way through to the very end, and just really had a great time. I know that some of them are a little slow. They're all a little slow. Well, they're not all a little slow, but there's some of them are super slow. Book 11 is a particularly hard wall to climb, but I loved them. I'm like I kind of cried a lot and felt a little cryy and weepy for a couple of days after, just for the wonderful experience it was to be in that world for so long. How well Brandon finished it. The characters that I've known all my life, getting to where they got it. There was a sweet tenderness there that stayed with me for a while, and that's I love that so much about books. Anyway, one of my kids had been reading the Wheel of Time series. I think it was about a book 5 when the series showed up. We watched. Man, I do a long lead ups to these things. Sorry, guys. We watched the first episode of the Wheel of Time, and we were shouting at the screen the whole time. Now, again, I cannot pretend I don't have a deep emotional connection with those books, with those characters, with what I've read, with what I've loved. I am able to, on an intellectual level, say interesting choices, not terrible. I see where you're going with this, and it makes sense for what you're trying to do. But because of the deep emotional connection and how much I truly loved those books, I really hated that first episode. I felt like, so Brandon, of course, Sanderson, he says, I kind of see it as a different turning of the wheel. And I'm like, great. They sold it as the turning of the wheel that we read. That's what they said they were making. And then they didn't. And they forked up the characters. They introduced, it was like the Game of Thrones without quite as much graphic stuff, but there was sex between Egwene and Rand. Sorry for the spoiler. And they fricked up the whole idea of Taviran and how Sidar is used and Sidon is used and all this stuff. It was just ridiculous. So we shook our fists at it and hollered at it for an episode. Had a great time with it. It was like riff tracks, but maybe a little clever. I don't know, or just a little more angry. I don't know, man. And so we didn't go back to it. And I haven't watched Rings of Power, although I really would like to. I've heard mixed. It's a mixed bag, and so I'm happy to watch it. I am a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings books and the Hobbit book, and I'm a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings movies, and a mid fan of the Hobbit movie. I just love the world so much. I am not as obsessive of a fan about the Tolkien stuff that I can't, not be ridiculous about it. I can be fine about it. I mean, they decided to make a different story. They decided to do a different thing. So it's like Tolkien adjacent or Middle Earth adjacent. Maybe it's like, I don't know, Center Earth instead of Middle Earth. I don't know, man. But anyway, I'm going to watch it. I'll go into it with an open mind and heart. We'll see how it goes. I have to say, I've seen a couple of scenes that I'm like, what's going on here? That's not good. Sword fight scenes and some other things, but I'm not going to be too up in arms about it. It's not one of my revered IPs. I'm glad you loved that, Rob. Cool. I will let people know when I see it. I may do a video on it. I don't know. But yeah, Willow, I just, it's pretty low on my priorities list. I doubt I'll get to it. I don't think I'll get to it. I don't know. Anyway, so I got to go. That's pretty much how do your stream. I got to have been enjoying your Oh, thanks, Nonsensical. I don't know who you are, but you're awesome, and thank you very much. Good night. I'm gonna sign off here in just a second too. Thanks for tuning in. I cannot thank you enough for your support and for your friendship and your kindness, and for subscribing to my YouTube channel. It is miserably hard for such a low lister like me to get the subscriber number I need on YouTube to monetize. And yet here I am struggling to do so because my dadgum books keep getting scads of views. Beyond the Cabin and Finding a Home. Beyond the Cabin and Finding a Home, they shot up, especially Beyond the Cabin, at an astonishing rate. I was at 10,000 watch hours in my first, like, 5 days. It was insane. So I was like, let's go monetizing. That didn't work out. So I don't know. I'd love it if you'd share, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your roommates, tell your dogs, your cats, your other pets. So we can get more subscribers over here. What I really need is I need a famous YouTuber to plug me. You guys know any famous YouTubers? I actually do, is the problem. I just feel weird. Like I know John Decker, who does cinema therapy. I would feel weird. We've talked about me joining up on an episode there. But okay, I'm kind of a nobody, so why would they? Anyway, I'm not a nobody. I won The Hustler, and I write books, and I'm Jared and Jerry. This is Jared and Jerry signing off. Thanks so much for being here, and until next time, I will schedule something. It probably won't be on a Thursday again. Thursdays, just it seems like a good night, but it's probably not going to be good. I'll figure some out. Watch for it. Thank you guys. Give your families a hug, and sleep well. I'm out, man.